On the agenda. The first one is just kind of opening the discussion about street levy, which everyone loves taxes and very exciting. But it's kind of been weighing on my mind for the past year about just repairing our streets in a timely fashion. I was looking at an analysis that John Moore did on his blog, that he did a couple years ago, and the numbers seem to check out, that it would take us over 30 years right now at our current rate of funding and street repair to repave all of our streets, and 30 years is about the time that we would have to start paving them again. If we could cut that time by any amount, or have the funding to kind of keep the good streets better as opposed to just kind of mopping up the worst streets, I feel like that would be something we should pursue. So I didn't know, Eric, if this is something that previous councils had talked about or done anything with.
We hadn't, not to any kind of length or anything.
Okay.
I mean, it might have been mentioned before.
Okay.
I would say, though, part of a streets plan should be the kind of thing where you time it out to where you're always doing streets. Whatever that time frame is. 30 years is probably too long for our streets, because I don't know that a street taken really good care of would probably go, I mean, I would say, I'm trying to think of what they've told me before, like 20 to 25 years. And that's if you're taking care of and doing. The benefit of getting on a rotation like that is that as you roll back around, you're not tearing up to the roadbed. You're just taking care of your streets. And so many of the streets now have gone so long that it has to be a complete tear up. But if you can get that cycle going, that's really what you want to do, because then it can be maintained. You're in a predictable maintenance cycle, as opposed to oh my gosh, let's try to find money to fix what we can cycle.
Yeah, and like desperately trying to hold the streets together with Band-Aids and duct tape. So yeah, I think I had talked to Noah earlier today, and I think the administration would be generally in support. There's a couple things that might prevent us from getting it on the ballot. Definitely not this year. This year's way too soon, but one of the things is, of course, the fiscal emergency plan. The other one is that we don't have a bond rating. Like, our city does not have a bond rating.
Yeah.
So we would not be able to, we would have to use a non-rated bonds, which the interest rate is significantly higher than we would get if we had a bond rating.
Right.
In order to get a bond rating, we have to get a fiscal emergency.
Right.
So that's something that he said, it'd be better to wait until that happens. But since we don't know when that's going to happen, my feeling was we could lay the groundwork, see kind of what the numbers would be if we had different millage rates, and kind of prepare a resolution for when things are looking a little better. So that's kind of my feeling. But I had done some research on how this whole process works. So I figured I'd just kind of talk through it, because it's all new to me, and just kind of getting it out there. At least it's on video if anyone wants to ever review this. So you have to contact the county auditor, have them do a valuation of all the property, and you can submit different millage rates. So a typical millage rate ranges from 1.5 to 3 mils. 1.5 mils is the equivalent of about $150 per $100,000 of assessed value. That's not the same as like what you would pay like the realtor. Like, for instance, my house is we paid $260,000, but it's only assessed by the auditor to be $103,000. So it's not like a one-to-one thing. So I would pay about $150, $160 extra on my property tax.
Over the course of a year.
Over the course of a year, yes. And I've been looking at similar cities. So I sent you guys the thing with Hamilton. I think they have a really nice website that kind of shows where the money is going, and the residents can also kind of vote on what roads end up being paved, which I think would be a good thing to have. But There's also Portsmouth, Ohio, which has a population right around 20,000 people. It passed a levy, 1.5 mil increase for 5 years, and that's going to generate for them about $350,000 per year for the next 5 years. And I think our property tax base is higher than theirs. They're pretty out there city, and our property values are unfortunately going to go up with the reevaluation. So I think that's a kind of a good baseline. Minimum 350,000 a year is probably what we would get. And we're also getting that money from the DMV tax that we voted on. That's going to amount to 70 to 80,000 extra a year.
Right.
So having all of that, it's not just that money that allows us to parlay that into doing a 50-50 match with other sources of funding. So that $450,000 suddenly becomes $900,000 because suddenly you have the money to apply for stuff that you didn't have the money to before. So that's kind of what I think would be, that's why I think it would be a good idea. And frankly, right now, material costs are so gosh darn high. The hope is they're going to start going down soon as interest rates and inflation have somewhat cooled. But the interest rates are probably never going to be what they were in the past, unfortunately. So I think my feeling was basically as soon as we can get this on the ballot, the better. The other big thing with putting this on the ballot is actually getting it passed. So I don't know, other levies. I talked to Keith Moore. They had tried to pass a health levy in 2013 and that failed. I didn't know if you guys had a sense of if this might be a hard sell or an easy sell, or kind of if there's just no way to tell right now.
I don't know how this sell will be, but I have ideas of how to sell it.
Yes.
The first part is selling the levy along with a very concrete plan of how it's going to be applied. So however this is going to generate X number of dollars over X number of years, we're going to use those dollars to jumpstart revitalization on these roads. What that will allow us to do is then use the money that we normally do to put into the 25-year maintenance, 20-year maintenance, 30-year maintenance, whatever that is. I know that we have the roads plan that we've had done that tells which roads are most need. You do things like you make signs that say you pass this levy and this road gets paid and paved in 2026.
Yeah,
and because you can do that when you have a good plan.
Yeah.
I think you would have a hard time passing it without a really hard, well-communicated plan. I hear a lot of people say, they don't understand why. Well, most people don't understand how taxes in the city works anyway, but they don't understand why what money the city does have can't be used to put the roads. And, it's just people don't tune into city finance pie charts very often to know how things work. Yeah. And it's not on them. Right. It's just, it would be up to the people who want to pass that levy to inform voters and let them at least
see that there is a plan.
Make the best informed decision they can make, yes or no.
Yeah, and I think it helps that, these levies, they have strictures in place that you can only use them for infrastructure. This is not a case of we get this money and then we build a new amphitheater or something.
Yeah, I think
right.
That would be important messaging.
Yeah, and
if you want the roads fixed, this money would go to fix the roads.
It would be illegal for us to use it for any other purpose.
Right.
You start to break it down like you just did with the 1.5 mil.
Yeah.
What'd you say, 200?
350,000 a year.
Yeah, but how much on the?
$150 per $100,000.
$150 per 100,000, which if you've got 100, most people's valuation is going to be between that and 200K. You're talking $10 to $20 a month.
Correct.
To
significantly
put directly
improve
towards streets. If somebody told me that they were going to come and ask me $20 once a month, and the streets would get better, I'd be like, yeah, I could give you $20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just all it's all in the way that you communicate it.
Right. Yeah, and I think the messaging will be really important in being be able to give those exact figures. So my feeling was I was going to go ahead and just email the auditor and give them a couple of millage rates and just see what, I guess, see which ones seem reasonable based on other populations. Then we have the figures, and we know property valuation is probably going to go up, so we can say like at least this amount.
Right.
And then having that, we can kind of
You can start building the plan.
start building the plan of like, okay, we know that this road is going to cost about this much, so we'll be able to do X, Y, and Z roads because we'll have this money, and then every year from then on. So that, I think that would be a good way to sell it. But I've done a couple of kind of Q&A stuff on roads and how roads are selected to be paved and the difficulties that we have as a small city. So I'm going to continue to try to do more of those with kind of other parts of the city's finances as well, like the water system, the park system, just as a way to try to reach people. The one thing that is an issue is getting the word out to people beyond just Facebook.
Right.
Like you have the city website, but you don't necessarily go there unless you're looking for something specific, and not everyone's on Facebook, and Facebook's not a great place sometimes. So I don't know if you guys have ideas of how to best spread a message like that of like, hey, come hang out and learn about roads.
This may be a situation where like yard signs might, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
Yard signs, knocking
Yeah.
on doors, mailers.
mailers, yeah.
mailers, yeah. This might be we have to meet people where they are. on this.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's important.
Yeah.
It should be important to both parties represented within the city
Right.
using, what do you call that?
Council funds?
Boots on the ground.
No, the folks who are in charge of individual precinct executives.
Precinct executives,
Yeah.
yes.
To help get word out within their precinct.
Yeah,
From both parties, because you're gonna want, no single party would be able to pass
right. And
this, so it needs to have good buy-in.
I would hope this would be like a bipartisan issue.
Oh, I would think so.
yeah, I think it'd be weird if it wasn't.
If it was.
Just because that's like the number one complaint for everyone,
Right.
just justifiably. That's not meant to be a slam on people, but yeah, so yeah, maybe engaging precinct executives, doing some, of course, the only issue with mailers is that it quickly adds up a lot of money.
It does.
I don't know, is that something where our budget that we've appropriated for council would be something that we could use for that, or, I don't
I
know.
believe so, but pretty much all of the stuff that we appropriate for council is like attached to things.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's not like we have extra budget
Yeah.
appropriated. If we weren't in fiscal emergency, it wouldn't matter so much. We could pull it out of the thing. There might be money in the general fund. I mean, I think it's probably something that the city could pay for because it benefits the city.
And we may want to like engage local businesses too to see. if
Just
they
to
could
put flyers
just
up.
spread the word. Yeah. And
Because I know with like the ADU stuff, just getting the word out there. Like I really, truly want to engage as many people as possible. Even if, let's say, the levy never passes, just like having people understand how streets work and that we do have at least a plan, whether or not we have the money for it. So, yeah, I think that would be good. I can talk to Noah and see like if there's some way that we could get some money for maybe mailers, or if not, then just talk to the precinct executives and see if they can disperse stuff.
Distributor.
Yeah,
You might find volunteers. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
The people who want this and want good roads might be willing to knock on doors.
that is true, yep. And it might not be able to hit every road, but if we can hit enough, at least get people, and then they can talk to other people too.
Right.
So like one of the folks that came to my previous meeting was like, I'm here for my entire block. So I'm like,
Right.
great, love that.
Representative.
Representatives. Cool. So yeah, that's something to think about, just to communicate.
Yeah, and I would,
'Cause I've got the presentation already, and I can just add on a slide of like, hey, if we do a street levy, this is what it would be. And it wouldn't be this year, but
Right.
this is something to think about in the future, so.
yeah, Yeah, I also think when you think about laying out the plan for the streets, there's a huge difference in cost between a street that has to be completely torn up and a street that just needs to be repaved.
Regular
And-
routine maintenance.
Routine
Yeah.
maintenance. And I'm not talking severe routine maintenance where you scrape off the roadbed and
Yeah.
you lay down a new roadbed. That's still better than completely removing everything down to dirt and building it back up. I remember when we did the hill on Forest, I want to say that was like $1.2 million.
It was a
That-
lot,
that
more
two
than you might
blocks.
think for the two,
Right,
3 blocks.
whereas, you could do several blocks of roads that don't have to be taken down to that level. So it might be worth looking at the levy money maybe goes directly to fixing
Like doing more
the
preventative maintenance
least,
stuff.
the less expensive roads, so
Yeah.
you're really making progress on it. Whereas the money that we already have
Continues to work
yearly,
at the
you're
really
looking
worst.
for those heavy matches where you're doing the big projects that
Yeah.
cost millions of dollars.
And NOAA has said that they already intend to use the stuff from the DMV fee to do some of the smaller projects that, like little blocks, like the block between Robertson and Smith on
Yeah.
Forest, or like little things that we can probably use just that money plus a little bit more. So, yeah, having even a bigger pool of money could give
Yeah.
a lot more leeway with that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's something to think about. So yeah, my next step was just email the auditor, because, she's got a lot of stuff to do, and I can just
Right.
give us plenty of time to
Exactly.
get a answer, and then try to figure out another time that I can host like a Q&A, at some point in the next month or two, see kind of what the feeling is with how we can get the word out.
Yeah, and
So-
I would imagine once it gets time to put it on the ballot, that you're gonna be wanting to do
More of those,
every
yeah.
other week
Yeah.
community meetings where people can come, because it'll take a while for people to hear.
Absolutely, yeah. I figure this can be a start to start
Yeah.
getting the word out, kind of seed the ground with the idea, and hopefully build enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Because I know this is a marathon, not a sprint when it
Right.
comes to this stuff. All right, so anything else with street levy stuff? I've just been neck deep in researching this stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. The law department has everything written when we need it, so.
Great.
The other thing I have is just some general updates on infrastructure stuff. I have some good news and bad news. Good news is that MSD, answered Norwood and said that they were looking at the plan that we submitted, which is better than not hearing
Better
anything.
than nothing.
They answered and said nothing.
Yeah, they answered and said, we got it.
So maybe.
So Elm Avenue stuff has incrementally shifted toward being possible. The other,
Wonder if we could put MSD payments in escrow until they
I
answer.
would love that. If we could
I don't
turn
know if we
this,
have any legal grounds for it, but.
The money's there.
Sure.
turn the screws somehow. Yeah. The other one, slightly less happy, is the railroad. Norfolk and Southern got back to us about the potential Millcrest connector running through Millcrest. And so we had gotten a survey evaluation of the property, gave them, I said, hey, this is what we got it valued for, and they said, oh, we want more than that,
Right.
which I guess they would. So now the question is, do we go back and give them another offer? They did not specify what they would actually accept, so there's not like a baseline for that. So I guess right now it's the question of, do we wait and see if they change their mind, or do we kind of counteroffer with a little bit more and see what happens?
I wouldn't count it without them throwing out a number.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good thing
Not a
either.
good idea.
So
Make them put a
number
stick
on
in
it.
this
Yeah,
sand or whatever that saying is.
yeah, I would agree. Just like give a number
Yeah,
and we can
give a
say yes or
number.
no.
And then if it's way too much, we say, okay, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
And then wait a while.
Yeah, they can throw it. Yeah.
Noah has also been in contact with Xavier, and they're very enthusiastic about helping us connect that
I'm sure.
if we
It's
get
great
the
for them.
property. So once we get the property, if we get the property, we would have help from Xavier and from Tri-State Trails, so, and Clean Ohio grant funds, so.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
it'd be
dominoes
a-
waiting to fall.
It'll be a great project.
I know, it would be a wonderful project. I think Norfolk and Southern could use some good,
Good
PR. Maybe we should email them about East Palestine again, remind them what happened,
That'd be one. I mean,
maybe.
and we all know what they make in a year now, so it's
do.
amazing. They would just want
Right.
Maybe they just
so
don't.
much for this tiny
Yeah.
plot of land they aren't
I hope
using.
Mr. Norfolk
But
and
they'll
or
never
Mr.
use it
Southern is
again.
watching this. Yeah, so that's, a bit frustrating, but
Yeah,
with large
I mean-
corporations, I feel like it's more likely to be frustrating than not when you're trying to do stuff. I don't know who else would buy that property. It's a bunch of little, like abutting, it's basically 20 acres stretched out into a 20-foot wide parcel.
Right.
There's not much else you could build there besides a path, unless you wanted to individually sell to each homeowner abutting it, and that would be
Weird.
silly and weird. So, yeah, I guess we'll see what, maybe they'll come back with an offer, or we hear something else, change their mind, could happen. So, yeah. So, figure I will just keep in contact with Noah about that. They just heard back this week, so it was a
Yeah.
relatively new thing.
Yeah, I would just reach back out and say, okay.
Like, okay, so
What you
what do you
thinking?
want? What you thinking, bud? Yeah. And then, obviously, we passed the stuff for doing Smith Road, doing curb cutouts and ADA compliant ramps on Smith Road, as well as repaving. And that has to start within 1 year of July 1st, so whenever, hopefully sooner rather than later. I think the estimate was probably more towards spring of next year than fall. It's just the way that costs are, and with the backlog that certain contractors have, so.
Sure.
But it is passed, and we have the money, and it is coming, so
That is
that's
good.
exciting. And they were surveying on Rolston, and they were surveying on Lincoln, so all that is got in the process too, so.
You know, are they gonna do anything with the Forest Smith crossing there? Because they're such at odd angles.
I asked about that, and I asked them to like look into the timing thing, so, because right now it's just, there's not a triggered timing, it's just a
Right.
timed change of the lights, even if no one's at that little road, it
Right.
still goes to green on that. There wasn't any thought of changing the traffic pattern, unfortunately, beyond that, because it would be beyond the purview of the
Right.
project. So I feel like that intersection would be great for a roundabout, but that was something that would have to be a completely separate
Right, yeah, that's totally.
conversation, so unfortunately.
Yeah.
My husband did a little sketch up, and it looked like it would just fit, but he's not a traffic engineer, he's just a mechanical engineer, so, that's something that I would love to see.
Yeah.
But if it's between that and having the road paved, I'll just take the road paved, I guess.
Right,
So,
oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah, not a huge fan of that intersection, and the floral.
Yeah.
Smith
I've been thinking
one.
if we could get the lights changed. I mean, because the weird thing is on Forest, with the odd
Yeah, it's
offset, they
staggered.
still get green lights at the same time.
Yeah, and people don't
turn
realize.
lights at the same time. And so, if you're not from here, and you don't know how that works,
Oh, it's like
It could be-
constantly almost accidents of
Right.
people turning left and
even
people
if it
going
just
straight.
staggers, a one way and then the other.
Yeah.
It would be safer, I think.
No, staggering seems like it'd be a lot easier. Like, still have Smith be
Right,
normal.
Smith is
but-
still Smith.
Yeah. And
It's just Forest across, that's
it's just the
weird.
forest across, yeah. Yeah, and because of the school there's not a way to like really rejigger it so that you can have it
Right,
be
close.
more of a straight crossing, so. Yeah, I've asked about that and basically got told it's complicated. But, hey, maybe if we pass this levy,
Yeah.
roundabout time, yeah. Right, any other things for the good of the city?
I
Or,
think so.
okay, I don't think there are any other like new infrastructure updates, besides the things I already said, so, yeah, I'm not feeling overly hot, so I figured this is a good time to end, so before we all die of heat stroke in here.
Right.
So, thank you, I will see y'all later, thanks, Steve.
All right.
Yeah,
you,
we did it.
Thanks.